Hello and welcome into the College Football Recruiting Show alongside Blair Angulo. I am Emily Proud. We appreciate you watching us live for today's show. If you would be so kind as to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Let's tell you what's on tap for today's show because it is loaded. Elite 11 finals, they have come and gone, but now that the on-field portion is over, the recruiting intel is pouring in. We'll have the latest. Plus, we'll head to the Rocky Mountains to check in with the Buffs recruiting, and we have a live commitment on today's show. Four-star quarterback Jaden O'Neal joins us to make his college choice. But first, Blair, let's hit some headlines. News breaking at this hour, five-star wide receiver Jerome Miles has decommitted from Ole Miss. This per you, our own Blair Angulo. Blair, he went on officials to Utah, to Texas A&M. He has more planned in the future. Just tell us what happened here.
Just returned from an official visit to College Station. Really liked what the Aggies were able to sell during the weekend official visit. I think this is a prospect that wants to take his time. He told me he wants to decide closer to the early signing period, go through everything. He's got an official to Michigan at the end of July. Tennessee is another school that's been pushing to get him out to Knoxville. So this one is far from over, and now Jerome Miles is officially back on the market.
All right, but today was really all about the commitments. First, a top 10 edge, Zion Grady, pledging his commitment to Ohio State. The 2025 prospect joins the Buckeyes' #1 class and brings what to it, Blair?
A position-versatile pass rusher capable of playing multiple roles in Columbus for Coach Larry Johnson. That's what our guy Cooper Patagna loves about Zion Grady, a quick twitch mover and a physical edge who will get after the quarterback.
Another big commitment, and this one is approximately 80 pounds bigger. Offensive lineman Douglas Utu committing to Tennessee. The Bishop Gorman product tweeted, "You can't spell Utu without UT." What did the Vols just add in the #4 interior offensive lineman?
One of the most technically savvy blockers that we have seen out west over the last decade. Utu is so fundamentally sound. He's been a starter on a loaded Bishop Gorman team since he was a freshman, and we believe that Tennessee is getting a future NFL cornerstone offensive lineman.
How about those Tigers? Memphis beating out Florida for the #12 quarterback in the 2025 class, Antoine Hill. The Warner Robins Georgia prospect stands at 6'5", 215. How big, literally and figuratively, is this recruiting win for Ryan Silverfield?
Really, really significant for Memphis. They did draw that official visit the weekend after he went out to Florida, and that made a tremendous impression. It sounds like early playing time was a key factor here, and Hill, who was previously committed to Colorado, and Coach Prime should get the opportunity to shine early in his college career.
It's time now to go around the country to get the latest recruiting intel. We'll hear from national recruiting analyst Tom Loy, Brandon Huffman, and you, Blair. Here's Tom to start off our recruiting roundup.
Thanks, Emily. The first two guys that I want to talk about is top 100 receiver Vernell Brown III out of Orlando, Florida, Jones High School. This is a guy that I recently connected with out at the Elite 11 finals. He was one of the top pass catchers, kind of working with the elite quarterbacks across the country. And nothing's really changed. It's really been a Florida State battle over the last few weeks. Ohio State's very much in play. Miami's in play. But really, when it comes down to it, I fully expect him to land at Florida or Florida State. Now, the reason I haven't put in a crystal ball yet for the Gators is because I wanted to see how things went in Tallahassee over the weekend. And from everything I've gathered, Florida State made a big push, probably much bigger than even Vernell Brown expected. So I'm not quite ready to put the crystal ball pick on the Gators. I want to see if the buzz with Florida State wears off. He's set to make a decision in July. Again, I still expect it to be Florida, but I'm just not ready to put the pick in because I do think the Seminoles move the needle a little bit. But again, Florida fans, I still like the Gators to pull this one out. He's a legacy, and I expect him to follow in his father's footsteps. The other one I want to talk about is top 100 tight end Andrew Olesh out of Pennsylvania, Southern Lehigh High School in Center Valley. Now, this is a guy that's been all over the place in terms of Michigan, Alabama, Penn State, Florida, and even Ole Miss was all in play. But coming out of this weekend, I fully expect Michigan to be the team to beat and to land his commitment. We also connected at the Elite 11 finals. He was catching balls all over the place, and I could not have been more impressed with what he did. If there's a better tight end in the class of 2025, I haven't seen him live quite yet. Andrew Olesh is the real deal. And for me, my crystal ball pick is on the Wolverines. Fully expect them to get this one done. This was a game changer of an official visit from everything I've gathered. So look for him to make a decision sooner rather than later. I do expect him to make his final commitment in July. And right now and moving forward, I expect Michigan to get that one done. It's going to be a massive pickup for Sharon Moore. Now let's head over to Brandon Huffman out west to see how things are going out there.
Thanks, Tom. Well, it was a busy week for the number one player in the state of Hawaii, Jiren Kiave Songopolitelli, who was just at the Elite 11 finals last week, but sandwiched in between the Elite 11 finals was a visit to Boise State last weekend and then a visit to Cal this past weekend. Prior to that, he took an official visit to Oregon State and to Utah State. Now, Songopolitelli is still undecided. He is yet to make his decision, but those four schools, Utah State, Oregon State, Boise State, and Cal, all are in the mix to land the talented lefty who made the final Elite 11 after his performance in Los Angeles. Now, Cal had the last official visit for him this weekend. He came straight from LA, actually threw in their 7-on-7 tournament with his high school team, helped them win. But he's had a busy couple of weeks, and now he'll hone in on those four teams to make his decision here in the coming weeks. After him, Josiah Sharma is one of the top uncommitted players in Northern California. He too took an official visit this last weekend, heading down to Tuscaloosa to Alabama, where he had previously committed to Kalen DeBoer when DeBoer was the head coach at Washington. Sharma announced for the Huskies on New Year's Day, and that night, Kalen DeBoer and Washington beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl to go to the national championship game. When DeBoer left for Alabama, Sharma opened his recruitment up a few weeks later, and the Tide are still in the mix. The Huskies are still in the mix. Texas, who lost to DeBoer on the day that Sharma announced, is in the mix. And so too is Oregon, who had him in for an official visit last week. It's a 4-team race. Can the Huskies reel him back in despite the coaching change? They're hoping to. Oregon made a late surge, getting him on campus for an unofficial visit the first week in June, then getting him for the official last week. But Texas and Alabama had been the two SEC schools that had maintained this long-standing presence in his recruitment since he opened it up. So we'll see where Sharma is going to announce when he decides at the end of the week on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. And now for more national recruiting scoop, we go back to Blair Angulo.
Thank you, Huff. I want to begin with Dylan Robinson, a top 24/7 athlete from Bonita High School in Laverne, California. It was a busy week for him. He kicked it off with a midweek official visit to Notre Dame. He wrapped things up back home in California with an official visit to UCLA this past weekend. He told me that both schools are pushing the same angle in terms of the academic appeal being a 40-year decision and not just a 4-year decision, but also the ability to make an impact on the football field. That's kind of where the similarities end, though. There are some stark differences with what Notre Dame wants him to do and what UCLA wants him to do. At Notre Dame, Dylan Robinson would be a wide receiver. He said that that offense is really special and he would be a playmaker catching the football. At UCLA, they like him at safety. He would be one of those big prospects that can man the secondary, cover players in the slot, but also cover tight ends downfield. That's also an attractive position for him. So now it depends on whether he prefers offense or prefers defense. Utah and Washington are also involved, and this one is really, really close to call right now. Another prospect that hit the road was SJ Alofaituli. We talked about Douglas Utu to kick off the show. Well, this is his teammate at Bishop Gorman. He's actually ranked ahead of him, the number one offensive lineman out west in this 2025 cycle. Just made it out to Miami. The Hurricanes have been considered the front runner. Recruitment. He wrapped up his official visit slate, hopes to make a decision this summer. Michigan, Nebraska, Oregon have all gotten official visits as well. But I get the sense that it's Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal making a huge charge here and leading the race because of their involvement and because of what they were able to do at Oregon previously. I think that's where SJ got that familiarity with both Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal with what they did with Penei Sewell and Jackson Powers Johnson This one, I think, is also a little bit too close to call right now, but it sounds like Miami is edging out in front of those other contenders for the talented offensive lineman from Las Vegas.
Thank you so much. We have the best recruiting team there is, if that was not obvious in the previous segment. Check out more of their work at 247sports.com. You got crystal balls, analysis, VIP info. 247sports.com is the place for all that and more. Plus, all my friends waiting for Jaden O'Neal's commitment. It is coming up in minutes, so stay tuned for that. But first, we got to talk about the Buffs, because Coach Prime in Colorado rolling out the red carpet over the weekend for some high-profile visitors, from five-star quarterbacks to top 247 prospects who have since committed to Colorado since that visit. It is hard to argue the weekend was anything but a success. Our friend Adam Munsterteiger of Buff Stampede making that argument on Twitter yesterday, saying, quote, "You can try to hate on Buffs football right now because of jealousy over the attention they get, or fabricated stories, or wanting your favorite team to land a recruit. But what Coach Prime has cooking in Boulder right now is a force to be reckoned with." Adam joins us on the show now. And Adam, I know you're limited to a certain number of characters online, so let's expand on that. What does Coach Prime have cooking right now?
Well, every transfer cycle, the Buffalo's roster has gotten substantially better, and recruiting is pretty selective from the high school ranks right now for Colorado. And it's because Coach Prime, as he said, I don't have patience. I want to win right now. And so they're having to build this roster primarily through the transfer portal. But we've seen now, I mean, you can even go back to when Coach Prime Sanders was at Jackson State. You know, the first year, Shedeur Sanders, obviously his son comes on board there. The next cycle, they shock everybody and get Travis Hunter. Then his first year in Colorado, Cormani McLean didn't quite work out for the Buffs, but he was still a five-star prospect recruited by everybody. And then this past recruiting cycle, Jordan Seaton. So they've landed a big fish every time. But really, the improvements we're going to see in this roster are more through the portal in terms of immediate impact. But Julian Lewis, if he comes on board, and we all saw the picture with Shedeur Sanders handing off the keys to him, you know, this is his program going forward if he wants it.
You mentioned big fish, and there might not be a bigger fish in this class right now for Coach Prime than Julian Lewis. We saw him at the Elite 11 finals in Los Angeles last week. The USC commit got a big welcome as well from people in Boulder. You see it there, them chanting that they want Juju. And there was also reports of a Julian Lewis burger in a restaurant over in Boulder as well. So the Buffs are pulling out all the stops to land the USC commit. How did it go for Julian Lewis in Boulder, Adam?
Yeah, it's funny. You've heard that saying, we threw everything but the kitchen sink at somebody. Well, the Buffs literally threw the sink at him. The sink has been a Boulder institution since 1923. It's one of the spots, if you ever come to Boulder, you need to check out. They've got that comfort food for you. I think what Colorado did this past weekend is give Julian Lewis something to really think about. Obviously, he's been verbally committed to USC since August, and Auburn's made a strong run at him. He also took a visit to Indiana. Colorado has done everything they can to make him feel like the most wanted person out there. I wrote that hashtag We Want Juju has been the most used hashtag by Colorado fans for quite a while now. And you know, there's kind of this apprehension of what is this program going to look like going forward after Shedeur Sanders graduates or moves on to the NFL after this coming season. And, you know, what is Coach Prime's future in Boulder? And locking up somebody like Julian Lewis would kind of be that bridge to the future. I mean, he's even got 99-year-old CU superfan Peggy Copham, part of the recruiting sales pitch there. So, there's no program with more eyes on it than Colorado right now. And as long as Deion Sanders is the head coach of Boulder, that will probably remain the case. And so that's been part of the sales pitch of you can be next in line here. And they don't have the NIL budget that a lot of schools have from kind of the middle of the class down, but they do have some NIL money towards the top of that. And so they've been doing everything they can to try to give him something to think about going forward. Blair, you said not too long ago about a recruit that it's too close to call. I think that's the case with Julian Lewis, but I think a lot of people going into this past weekend were looking at Colorado on the outside, looking in of his recruitment, and I think they're firmly in the mix now.
Man, who needs NIL when you have Peggy? You can't say no to that lady. Are you kidding me? Somebody that, I don't know if she did the recruiting pitch on him, but Chauncey Gooden going ahead and saying yes to Colorado. One of the top interior offensive linemen in this class went on a visit, said, yep, that's where I want to go, officially committing this morning. What did you hear from his weekend?
Well, just that he is somebody that can kind of help fill some of the gaps. When Coach Prime Sanders took over, he even admitted, look, I'm going to be building this program from the outside in. And that's because he knew that his star power would attract the skill guys initially. But we all saw last year, as Shedeur Sanders was sacked more than 50 times, that you've got to now fill in the inside of this roster. Otherwise, you're not going to have success and achieve the hopes that they're trying to with this program right now. And so with Jordan Seaton coming in last year, their big transfer haul on the offensive line. You look on the defensive line with transfers like BJ Green and Chidozie Wanko from Houston. They're starting to kind of fill in some of those gaps. And that was kind of the sales pitch to Chauncey Gooden, is that you can be part of that going forward. He was the alpha dog at the UA Next camp in Tennessee. And I know Tom Loy and our other folks that were out there covering him said it wasn't even a close competition. He's got, as he says, that dog mentality. And that's something that we've heard Coach Prime talk so much about. It's, being a great person off the field, but really once you get between those lines, you turn into a different person, and you throw on Chauncey Gooden's tape, and that's what you see.
Adam, we've heard Coach Prime basically compare this phase of recruiting to the NFL draft. Only 4 commitments right now for Colorado. They're sitting outside the top 75 nationally because this is high school recruiting and they take it a little bit slower. They're a bit more selective in that sense. Who else was in Boulder this past weekend that Colorado fans should be aware of?
Yeah, Mantrez Walker is a linebacker from Georgia to keep an eye on. He took a visit to Stanford recently, and so despite being verbally committed to Colorado, that had some Colorado fans a little bit anxious. Only about 6 foot, and that might be why he's not more highly regarded, but you turn on his tape, it's some really impressive film from his junior season at Buford High School in Georgia, and he recreated some of the Coach Prime photos that he had from his past, including the draft day photo. And so he seems to be pretty locked in now with the Buffs. And then Alex Graham, another player in that class, that small class. Again, you're going to see with Colorado, they're never really going to rank super high in terms of high school recruiting, as long as the focus is more on transfer recruiting. But Alex Graham, a 4-star from ING Academy, a versatile defensive back that is originally from Michigan. He also, like Mantrez Walker, visited some other schools. Alex Graham went to go see USC on an official visit recently, went out to Michigan again to see the Wolverines. So there was a little bit nervousness again with him and his recruiting, but it sounds like he's also kind of locked in now.
All right, that's one big weekend, but as we know, it's a recruiting cycle. You got to continue. So who else is on Colorado's radar as we wrap up the summer, get ready for the season?
They're looking at some receivers right now, and that's one position. Again, they've been so transfer portal heavy with their recruiting, but they like running back, receiver, in some other positions to kind of, be able to develop those guys. And Evan Haynes, a receiver prospect from Georgia, is somebody that has pretty strong interest in the Buffs right now. He really made the most of that summer visit window. He took 5 official visits already. He went to Georgia Tech, Kansas, Harvard, and North Carolina as well. His father, Michael Haynes, who led the NFL in yards per reception in 1991, played with Colorado receivers coach Jason Phillips and Coach Prime in the NFL, so he's got a connection there. He's set to announce later this summer. Another receiver to keep an eye on if you're into Colorado recruiting is Quinnell X. Farrakhan Jr., a receiver prospect from Houston. He was a second-team All-American on Max Preps as a sophomore, 35 touchdowns going into his senior year. Polished route runner, strong hands, and it looks like it's going to come down to probably Colorado or UCLA. and he's going to announce on July 13th. He's got Alabama, Nebraska, Texas A&M still part of the mix as well. But they like bringing in receivers. Like they brought in Omarion Miller 2 cycles ago. He came in, had almost 200 yards receiving in one half against USC. In this past cycle, they brought in Draylon Miller and Cam Michael, both 4-star receiver recruits. So that's a position they do like filling through the high school ranks. And you look at Colorado's roster, Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to be gone after this coming year. Travis Hunter will be off to the NFL, and LaJohntay Wester will be off to the NFL as well. So that's a position where they can really sell these young guys in terms of coming in and having a chance to compete for big playing time in 2025.
You gave us so much good information, but I still have one burning question. Did you happen to try the Juju Precision Pass Burger? I need a review.
I have not gotten down to the sink yet, but I'm planning to if it's still on the menu in the future, because that is one of the best burger spots in all of Colorado. But no, I have not tasted it yet.
Okay. I mean, it looks delicious. We've been staring at the photo of it. So, yeah, absolutely. Let us know. Follow him on Twitter so you can figure out the official review of the Juju Burger. Adam, thank you so much. Also, make sure that you're checking out his work at buffstampede.com. They will get you up to date on all things Colorado and get you ready for that upcoming season. It's almost here. Speaking of almost here, you have been waiting for it, and it's coming. Quarterback Jaden O'Neal is getting ready to make his commitment with us live. A top 100 player in the 2026 class out of Harbor City, California. Let me tell you a little bit more about this prospect before we welcome him on. He is currently the number 6 quarterback in the class, a top 15 player in the talent-rich state of California, and he has narrowed down his finalists to an elite few. We've got Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Washington, and now he is joining us here to make his commitment live. Welcome to the show, Jaden. How you feeling?
Feel good. Feel confident about my decision, and I can't wait to announce it live on television today.
I love it. We can't wait to hear. People in the chat can't wait to hear. But before we get there, we got a couple of questions. First off, who is there with you today that you would like to thank?
First off, I got my mom here with me, right next to me. She's right in front, a little bit camera shy. I got my the rest of my family is like upstairs. I'm in my game room right now. Then I got my guy next to me. I've been playing with him since youth ball, Farouk Muhammad, right here. So kind of a close circle, but it's a great day today, and I'm proud that my family's here with me.
Jaden, part of that close circle is your quarterback coach, Ortiz Jenkins. He played at Arizona. We know that you guys have a really good relationship. What has the journey been like to have Coach Jenkins there by your side?
Man, it's definitely been like a journey. A lot of ups and downs. A lot of denial, from like a lot of people. So he's always stuck by my side, always been there for me ever since I was 10 or 12 years old. So he's definitely, been there. He's definitely poured in like a lot with him and my dad. So it's definitely been a long journey.
I love it. A long journey that has led to this day. Without further ado, Jaden, take it away. Where are you playing your college ball?
For the next 3 to 4 years, after a lot of discussion with my family, I plan to take my talents to the University of Oklahoma. All in, baby. Let's get it.
There we go. Breaking news. 2026 quarterback Jaden O'Neal has committed to the Oklahoma Sooners. He is in. Jaden, I said we had some questions for you before. We, of course, have questions now. And the first one is, why Oklahoma?
It was really just like the coaching staff. First time I went up there on my unofficial early spring. When I first went up there, my first unofficial, I kind of got the sense of home. Dealing with Coach Venables, Coach Seth Luttrell, and Coach Jack Lowry. It was definitely, an experience that kind of mesmerized with me. They kind of just set the standard. They kind of broke, my expectations of what home felt like. So that was definitely, the main reason why I picked there.
We love to hear the late reaction there as they were tuning in to hear your decision. Did they know where you were going to college?
A few family members of mine, but since they kind of just heard I just went, it was kind of like a late reaction.
Now, Jaden, you commit early, right? This is the 2026 class, and you're about a year away if they do institute that early signing period next summer to come off the board and make a decision. How important was it for you to decide early and start building a class around you there to get other players to Norman with you?
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of big top-notch dominoes in the 26 class, coming down. And, everybody was just kind of asking me, where you headed to? And, being one of those bigger domino pieces, we kind of just have to factor in, after this long award tour, where was the best fit and where was home for me. So, it was very, thought out and definitely a moment to like just kind of soak in because it was a big decision. So right now I'm just kind of just talking with like a lot of people out of state and in state as well, at my team because we have a lot of recruits at my school who also have the Oklahoma offer. So I definitely want to start building the class because that's the biggest thing right now.
Jaden, our chat right now is loaded with fans yelling Boomer Sooner. People are very excited that you picked Oklahoma. So speak to the fan base right now. What are they getting in you?
I personally want the Sooner Nation to know you'll be getting like my best version of myself. I'm hardworking in and out of the classroom. I'm a blue collar, person. I love to work hard. And the reason why I kind of picked OU is just because like the coaching staff and the relationship I had, with everybody, starting with the offensive side and just being like in the building, I felt like it was home. And, having people like Coach Luttrell and Coach Jack Lowry, they're truly genuine. I personally see them, developing me, as a player and as a man. So I just can't wait to get like in the classroom and, potentially be winning championships at the University of Oklahoma.
I love it. Jaden, thank you so much for being here with us today. A huge congratulations. I know how much time and effort goes into this day. We appreciate you letting us share it with you.
Thank y'all for having me on here, truly. Thank you.
Of course, and what a big win for Brent Venables and Oklahoma, adding one of the top arms in the 2026 class. And you heard him say it, this could be just the beginning for this group as he looks to recruit more prospects to Norman. So that is somewhat where we head next in that general vicinity to welcome in our friend Colin Kennedy from Sooners Illustrated. I never know quite where you are. I know it's somewhere in the Norman area, CK, but appreciate you coming on here. What are the Sooners getting in this quarterback, Jaden O'Neal?
Oklahoma's got their guy, right? This is who they wanted in 2026 at a time where quarterback dominoes were falling and falling fast. So this Sooner staff wanted to go out and get its next signal caller, and then Jaden O'Neal couldn't have found a better fit at a better time. And look, our guy Greg Biggins has a great analysis piece as far as who this player is, but a quick fun story. Look, this is one of the best pure throwers of the football in 2026. And when he appeared at OU's football camp, guys, I just hilarious to me. Even in the one-on-one settings, when he's throwing incompletions to the receivers, maybe the DB made a play on the ball or wide receiver couldn't bring the ball in. Even in those incompletions, I had folks looking at me going, woof, like the ball placement, the overall arm talent, outstanding. But I think from a macro level, you look at Jaden O'Neal. The big thing for me is Seth Luttrell taking over as the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. He's an alumni of the football program, played at OU, was actually a fullback, running back type back in the day. And so now he coordinates the offense he was once a part of a few years ago. So bucket list gig, right? But I know, look, he's a great coach. A lot of Oklahoma fans, though, were very curious and asking about what recruiting would look like under Seth Luttrell because obviously there's Lincoln Riley, but then Jeff Levy, too, who was an outstanding recruiter helping to land guys like Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, and Kevin Sperry, who was just out at the Elite 11. But for Seth Luttrell to start his tenure with a top 100 player, a top 6 quarterback in the country, and most of all, the ideal fit for what he wants to do offensively. Before this program moves into the SEC, getting not only the caliber of talent here, but the ideal fit as well as they move into a new, very challenging conference. Whenever Jackson Arnold leaves the program, and whatever the next few years will look like with him leading the way in the SEC for the Sooners, now that quarterback competition gets even more interesting with a guy like Jaden O'Neal into the fold.
The timing of it is really significant to me to be able to get one of the top 6 quarterbacks in the country to commit to you this summer basically 2 years before he's about to kick off his college career is really important. A majority of the players, you mentioned Kevin Sperry, a majority of them at the Elite 11 finals had already decided in 2023. Oklahoma now has its quarterback. What is next, Colin, when you look on the radar of the Sooners and what they're trying to build?
Yeah, look, the Champ U Barbecue just wrapped up in Norman, Oklahoma, right? One of the biggest annual recruiting events of the summer. This Oklahoma staff does a great job of kind of ending official visit season in the summer on a strong note. In this year's event, no different, really impressive. We're running a special deal right now at Sooners Illustrated, folks, 60% off your new annual 24/7 sports subscription exclusively for Oklahoma fans. Great time to capitalize on that deal. But Blair, speaking of striking a good deal, how about Miguel Chavis, Oklahoma's defensive ends coach, gets an extension and a raise the Friday of the start of the Champ U Barbecue at a time where he had 3 top 247 4-star edge rushers on campus. That's kind of where I want to start. Let's go to CJ Nixon first, the #1 ranked player inside the state of Oklahoma, high 4-star talent, top 75 overall prospect. This is a long-time priority for OU for obvious reasons. Freakish athletic profile. You can see it here on your screen. The arm length, the overall movement ability. He's still very raw, a heavy basketball background, but in CJ Nixon, the Sooners see an incredibly high ceiling coming out of his recent official visit. This one just kind of feels like a matter of when, right? Oklahoma, Oklahoma State were the top 2. He takes those official visits, and all the reviews coming out of his time in Norman, very positive in Oklahoma's favor. I still favor the Sooners with my crystal ball pick for CJ Nixon, and that's the kind of talent you have to try and keep in state. I think Oklahoma's defensive coaches are working diligently to get that done with CJ Nixon. Another edge rusher I want to highlight, Smith Orogbo, going across the Red River. Let's go all the way to Alief, Texas, where Alief Hastings star Smith Orogbo was also in Norman, Oklahoma at a time where his recruitment has really heated up. So, Blair, he takes an official visit to Texas Tech, and right after that trip with the Red Raiders, they surged to the top of his recruitment. But I do think some of that momentum subsided a little bit, which allowed both Texas and Oklahoma to have their say. Coming out of the weekend, I think Oklahoma's pretty optimistic about where they stand with Smith Orogbo. This is one that they really want, a very raw, natural pass rusher type with all the potential in the world, and plus some scheme versatility as well. This is going to be kind of an interesting battle between Texas Tech, Texas, and then Oklahoma, but I think the Sooners kind of sneakily in good standing with him coming out of that recent official visit. He will likely decide around July 1st, speaking to a source again this morning. Then here's where I want to close. Look, Oklahoma safeties coach Brandon Hall, I've talked about him here on this show a time or two. Incredible recruiter and developer. He's going to work with Amarian Robinson, the safety out in the state of Arkansas. Amarian Robinson actually decided to delay his decision a little bit. It's now going to be around July 6th. He'll make the final call. And look, I think that whether it's Arkansas, Oregon, LSU, but now Oklahoma, he was just in town for the Champ U Barbecue as well. And whether it's Brandon Hall going to work on this guy, Todd Bates, J.P. Lossman, one of Oklahoma's secret weapons in that staff room, really diligent, hard recruiter. Amarian Robinson's feeling the love in Norman, and he had a great official visit. OU wants to close out a really strong DB class that Jay Valai and Brandon Hall have put together to this point. Amarian Robinson kind of feels that last outlier out there for OU, and we'll see what kind of ground they can cover, because I think that official visit out there in Norman, Oklahoma for Amarian Robinson, Blair, it was more than productive, to say the least.
A big win for the Sooners by way of 4-star quarterback Jaden O'Neal, and a big win for our show, having Colin Kennedy on it. We appreciate you, man. You can check out more of his work at SoonersIllustrated.com. Colin and the crew have you covered on all things Oklahoma. Also, you might have heard it, might not have, because he just seamlessly put it into his analysis, but they are running a 60% off sale for annual VIP memberships. That does end tonight, so make sure you take advantage of that now. We're supposed to say goodbye right now, but I have a quick question because something really interests me. When you were asking about the fact that the early signing period could be moving to the summer, the next cycle, because I've been wondering, Blair, all these 2026 quarterbacks, they seem to be coming off the board early. How much do you think that has an effect on their decision to commit now for 2026?
I think it's been a recruiting pitch from a lot of coaches, because once you start to identify other players in the next class, you have to start moving in on them we're already heading into the recruiting dead period for the next month. I think a lot of these coaches have realized, okay, this is what our recruiting class is going to look like. These are the commitments that we have. Let's get a head start on the next group. And what better way to get a head start than to get a quarterback who's going to be that building block, that foundation piece of your recruiting class. And I think that's why we're starting to see a lot of them start to fall. When we joke about the dominoes, Jaden O'Neal being a big one for Oklahoma to get that done.
Yeah, these quarterbacks committing now in 2026 might be signing in about a year, not in a year and a half. So that does speed things up a little bit. Thank you for humoring me. I know our producer is very mad that I did not say goodbye, but I'll do it right now, Aaron. For Blair Angulo, I'm Emily Proud, and this is the College Football Recruiting Show.